Welcome back to Griffonomics, where we conduct financial investigations to define the risk before we look at the reward. Today, we're diving into The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
We have torn through the layers of Toltec wisdom, the psychological mechanics, and the strategic roadmap laid out in this profoundly powerful work.
And our mission today is clear. We are unpacking the underlying systems that have kept billions of people trapped in a cycle of self-imposed suffering.
And we must emphasize the strategic utility of this material right from the start. For anyone focused on efficiency and personal performance, this framework provides just the ultimate leverage.
So how should we frame it?
The Four Agreements serve, fundamentally, as a psychological reprogramming manual. It's designed to dismantle the judge and victim legacy system, which Ruiz refers to as the parasite, and optimize personal performance by installing four new strategic agreements for achieving freedom from self-domestication.
It is, in essence, an intensive, critical audit of the subconscious agreements that govern every thought, action, and outcome in your life.
That framing and audit of the subconscious agreements is perfect.
It is, isn't it? Because it immediately suggests a massive, ongoing inefficiency in our current mental architecture. Our minds are running legacy software that's just bleeding energy, and we really need to understand the costs.
You do.
So let's unpack this system, starting with the diagnosis. Ruiz argues that humans are operating on corrupted programming installed through a process he chillingly calls domestication. Can you walk us through the actual mechanics of how this programming gets installed?
The mechanism is ubiquitous, and it starts the moment we are born. Ruiz explains that humans are domesticated exactly like animals through a universal non-consensual system of punishment and reward.
Punishment and reward.
Exactly. As a helpless infant, your survival depends entirely on the approval of the adults around you. We instinctively seek the reward, the touch, the smile, the attention, the love.
And we desperately try to avoid the punishment.
Desperately. Which is often rejection or disapproval or just fear.
And this isn't just about learning basic manners, is it? This constant calibration forces a child to make a tragic, fundamental compromise about their own identity.
It necessitates the first great sacrifice. In seeking the reward and avoiding that profound pain of rejection, we make a deep, unexamined agreement.
And what's that agreement?
We start pretending to be what we are not, just to please others. We suppress our authentic self, our wildness, our genuine preferences, and we tailor our personality to fit the expectations of what Ruiz calls the outside dream.
The dream of the planet.
Right. And this is the moment the self starts to fracture.
So, if the outside world is constantly projecting expectations onto us, the expectations of our culture, our parents, our school, how does that external pressure transition into something we enforce on ourselves? Because, the parents eventually back away, but the suffering continues.
That's the critical pivot point where the system becomes self-sustaining, the loop of auto-domestication.
Auto-domestication.
We become so profoundly conditioned that we internalize the entire mechanism. We no longer need mom or dad to hold the whip. We pick it up ourselves. We become our own domesticator.
Enforcing the rules ourselves.
Yes, according to this vast, complex, and unedited belief system we inherited. We actively punish ourselves when we step out of line and reward ourselves when we achieve the approved societal standards.
This internal enforcement mechanism, this corrupted code that takes residence inside the mind, is what Ruiz labels the parasite.
The parasite. It's a mental entity that controls our mind, and it thrives entirely on fear-based negative emotions.
What are the operational components of this legacy system?
The parasite is a three-part construct that acts as a kind of mental dictatorship built on the foundation of unexamined inherited beliefs. The foundation itself is the Book of Law.
The Book of Law.
This is the rigid, unchosen belief system, the collective consensus of right and wrong, acceptable and unacceptable, that dictates our truth. It's a rule book of our personal universe.
So it's the unedited legal code we are bound by, even though we never actually ratified it.
Precisely. And enforcing this code is the judge.
The judge.
The tireless, relentless internal voice of criticism. This judge is always watching, always comparing, and always finding fault.
And Ruiz is really clear on the mechanism, right?
Very clear. He says every time we do something that goes against the Book of Law, the judge says we are guilty, we need to be punished. The judge ensures that we suffer for our trespasses against this inherited code, whether they're real or just imagined.
And the third component, the victim, passively receives the judgment, which creates this internal emotional deficit.
The victim is the part of us that absorbs the emotional poison, the guilt, the blame, and the shame dispensed by the judge.
So the victim is what drives that internal narrative of
Poor me, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of love.
Exactly. The system, judge, victim, and law, it just feeds on itself, reinforcing this negative self-image.
And here's the terrifying insight from the book.
It is. Ruiz estimates that 95% of the beliefs we have stored in our minds are nothing but lies. 95%. So the parasite is ruling us based on fictional data.
Completely fictional data.
That statistic is staggering. It means we have an almost entirely corrupt operational system that dictates our potential. But let's talk about the cost, the energy leakage. Why is this human system so incredibly inefficient compared to, say, an animal that is also subjected to punishment and reward?
It highlights the unique curse of human intelligence and memory. When an animal suffers a punishment, the moment the physical consequence passes, the suffering usually ends. They learn and they move on.
But we don't.
We, however, use our memory, our intellect, to enforce self-abuse retroactively. Ruiz notes we punish ourselves thousands of times for a single mistake.
Every time we recall the event, every time the judge replays that tape.
Exactly. This constant recurring self-punishment is an immense, unrecoverable squandering of personal power.
It's like having a viral background process running 24/7, constantly using up your CPU cycles. So what is the ultimate mental state of someone operating under the severe energy deficit?
The consequence is a chaotic, fragmented mental state the Toltecs call the mitote.
The mitote.
Which translates roughly to confusion or chaos. Sometimes it's referred to as Maya or illusion.
He has a great analogy for it.
He does. Imagine your mind not as a peaceful, organized server room, but as a marketplace during rush hour. A marketplace of screaming voices where 1,000 people talk at the same time and nobody understands each other.
A constant internal civil war, a noise floor so loud you can't hear your own authentic voice.
Exactly. That constant chaos is the manifestation of the energy leakage. This internal mitote drains the individual's personal power.
So you're left feeling powerless.
Profoundly powerless, because most of our mental and emotional energy is spent maintaining the old fear-based agreements and keeping the parasite fed with self-recrimination and negative emotion. We are left with just enough power to survive each day.
So the mission of the 4 agreements, then, is to strategically reprogram the system to silence the mitote and reclaim that lost personal power.
That's the entire game.
Which brings us to the first major strategic intervention. We need an offensive weapon to start pushing back against the parasite. Tactical shift 1, the foundation of this entire architectural overhaul. Be impeccable with your word.
This is the offensive weapon, and Ruiz clearly states this is the most important and often the most difficult agreement to honor. It's the foundational shift.
Why this one first?
Because the word is the force of creation itself. It is the tool of human magic. Our words allow us to express, communicate, conceptualize, and thus create the entire landscape of our internal and external lives.
When we talk about impeccability, we have to move past the simple definition of just telling the truth. This is a spiritual strategy rooted in etymology.
It is entirely strategic.
Right.
The word impeccable is derived from the Latin im, without, and peccatus, sin.
So without sin.
Yes, but to adopt this agreement, we have to first redefine sin away from a strictly moral or religious context. Ruiz's definition is performance-based. Sin is anything that you do which goes against yourself.
So the ultimate sin, the thing that feeds the parasite the most, is self-rejection.
That is the ultimate deficit. If sin is going against yourself, blaming, judging, or criticizing yourself, then the strategy of impeccability means using your words in the direction of truth and love.
And taking responsibility.
Taking responsibility for your actions, but refusing to judge or blame the self. It is a calculated strategy to reclaim creative power and definitively stop the energy leakage caused by chronic self-sabotage through negative internal dialogue.
So if you are impeccable with your word, you cease to be your own worst enemy.
You do.
But the word, as you mentioned, is a double-edged sword. When we fail at this, when we use our words against ourselves or others, Ruiz labels that misuse black magic. Can you detail the mechanics of how negative words become what he calls pure poison?
The misuse of the word is how we construct and maintain the dream of hell. Gossip and negative opinions are the most common forms of this black magic because they are, in fact, pure poison.
And the source material has this perfect analogy for it.
The computer virus. It's a piece of language, a malicious code written with fear and harmful intent, and planted into the fertile, highly suggestible operating system of the human mind.
What makes that harmful code stick, though? What is the fertile ground that accepts the virus?
The ground is our original domestication. It's the agreement to believe what others tell us about ourselves, particularly if it comes from an authority figure or a trusted peer.
Like a parent.
For example, if a parent tells a child, "You are stupid," that negative opinion is a virus. The child, being highly programmable and seeking reward, agrees to this concept. It becomes an unexamined agreement in their book of law,
It becomes a spell.
a spell under which they live for years. They spend decades rejecting opportunities or minimizing their intelligence, simply fulfilling that negative contract.
That illustrates the awesome destructive power of language. It goes far beyond personal insult and scales up to social and historical catastrophe.
Absolutely. Ruiz uses the terrifying historical example of Hitler. Hitler did not use physical force to enslave millions initially. He used the power of his word, based on fear, to manipulate an entire country, activating people's deepest societal agreements and prejudices.
And the result was
Massive destruction and global chaos. This shows us that the word is a true force of nature. It commands reality. The agreement to be impeccable is the commitment to wield that force only for creation and love, never for destruction or self-criticism.
So if our word is the offensive weapon designed to stop the internal damage and reclaim creative power, how do we defend ourselves against the black magic, the emotional poison being cast by others?
Right.
That's where the defensive shield comes in. Tactical shift 2. Don't take anything personally.
This agreement is the ultimate defensive firewall. It provides instantaneous emotional immunity. And the core truth, the logic of this shield, must be internalized completely.
Which is?
Nothing other people do is because of you. It is because of themselves.
Okay, this feels difficult to accept sometimes. If a colleague insults me directly, using my name and pointing to my work, how can I logically say, that has nothing to do with me?
Because you must recognize that their verbal or emotional output is merely a projection of their own book of law, their own fear-based reality, and their unique programming,
So they're speaking from their own personal dream.
which is still corrupted by their judge and their victim. Ruiz stresses this. Even if someone insults you directly, it has nothing to do with you. They are simply reacting to their internal script, and you just happen to be the approximate target for their emotional poison.
But wait, isn't there a risk here of becoming too detached? If I truly don't take anything personally, am I not just excusing bad behavior or disconnecting from the world around me, maybe losing empathy?
That's a crucial question. Ruiz is not advocating for apathy or detachment. He is advocating for immunity.
Immunity, not apathy.
Right. Immunity means you don't absorb the poison. You can still respond with compassion or clarity to someone's pain, but you refuse to let their projection define your reality or activate your own judge-victim system. The suffering occurs the moment you internalize their projection.
And that's what activates your own internal judge to find the corresponding guilt or blame.
Exactly. And the source of this internalization, the reason we suffer so readily, is something Ruiz calls personal importance.
Personal importance.
Exactly. It's the systemic vulnerability that allows the poison to enter. Ruiz calls it the maximum expression of selfishness.
Which might sound harsh.
But it's brutally accurate, because we assume everything is about me. We believe we are the center of every conversation, every reaction, every negative thought someone else has. We take ownership of their emotional debris.
It sounds like taking things personally is a form of vanity, believing you hold the key to everyone else's mood or actions.
It is the height of vanity, disguised as sensitivity. And this vanity makes you a moving target, an easy victim for others' emotional poison.
So the defensive strategy is simple.
Build total immunity to external poison. When someone offers you emotional garbage, be it gossip, blame, or negativity, by refusing to take it personally, you simply refuse to ingest it. The poison remains their property.
And the return on investment for this agreement must be massive, considering how much energy we spend defending ourselves against perceived slights.
The efficiency payoff is immense. Releasing the belief in personal importance saves the massive amount of energy, usually spent feeling offended, defending a fragile ego, or engaging in pointless conflict.
You stop making something monumental out of a reflection of someone else's pain.
You do. And Ruiz provides a powerful calculation for this.
Oh.
If you practice the first two agreements, being impeccable with your word and not taking anything personally, you'll break 75% of the small agreements that keep you trapped in the dream of hell.
75%. That is a huge return for two simple mental shifts.
It's massive.
That suggests most of our suffering is self-inflicted through those two vulnerabilities. Now we move on to the third strategic shift. which targets the root cause of miscommunication and invented suffering. Tactical shift 3. Don't make assumptions. This is our intelligence protocol.
This agreement targets the mind's inherent, desperate need for certainty. The mind simply hates an information vacuum. It has an innate need to justify everything and feel safe.
So when we lack clarity,
Instead of initiating the communication protocol, the mind rushes in to fill that gap by making assumptions. And tragically, we then believe those assumptions are the unassailable truth.
so the mind fabricates data, often based on our fear and our history, to reduce uncertainty, even if that data is entirely and dangerously wrong.
It is an intelligence failure rooted in laziness and fear. These assumptions are often products of an overactive imagination, driven by the Mitote, and result in hallucinated realities.
We assume a spouse is angry because of us. We assume a boss meant to insult us.
We assume a friend is ignoring us, and these assumptions set us up for massive, pointless suffering.
And once that assumption is made, the entire judge-victim system just takes over. The judge declares the assumption true, and the victim starts suffering the consequences of a reality that exists only in your head.
Precisely. Ruiz links the three central engines of suffering directly. He says, all the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally.
They work in seamless tandem to create the dream of hell.
We assume, we take it personally, we lash out, and we perpetuate the poison.
So if the problem is a fear-based need for certainty, how does the strategic antidote work?
The antidote is straightforward, but it requires courage. The mind must replace assumptions with questions.
Just ask.
Ruiz states it unequivocally. It is always better to ask questions than to make an assumption, because assumptions set us up for suffering. Assumptions are low-effort suffering. Questions are high-effort clarity.
We need to adopt a clarity protocol in all communications, both internally and externally. But why is it so hard for people to simply ask for clarity?
Because asking for clarity means exposing vulnerability. It means admitting you don't know or that you need something. The parasite prefers the low-effort fantasy of assumption because it protects the fragile ego built on being right.
But the warrior is different.
The warrior adopts this clarity protocol. You must have the courage to ask questions until communication is absolutely clear. You must find your voice to ask for exactly what you want or need without expecting the other person to read your mind.
What's the strategic impact of this shift on our daily life?
The impact is profound. This protocol ensures you communicate cleanly and clearly, free of emotional poison. By eliminating assumptions, you eliminate conflicts created by mistake.
I mean, think of the massive energy wasted worrying about scenarios that never materialize, or fighting with a loved one over an intention that was never there.
Exactly. Stabilizing your relationships and freeing up that worry energy is the immediate return. You stop living in a movie written by your fears.
We've covered the word offensive creation, the external shield, immunity, and the communication protocol, clarity. Now for tactical shift 4, which addresses the execution and, crucially, the sustainability of these three agreements. Always do your best. This is the sustainability engine.
This is the agreement that integrates the first three into daily life and, most importantly, provides the ultimate mechanism to bypass the power of the internal judge.
If the judge is constantly looking for failure, we need a strategy that invalidates its claim.
We do.
Let's clarify your best, because in a high-performance environment, doing your best can often be misinterpreted as beating yourself up until you achieve perfection. Ruiz's definition is far more compassionate and realistic.
It's rooted in reality, not fantasy. The core understanding is that your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the next.
It's context-dependent.
Entirely. Your best effort fluctuates wildly based on your health, your emotional state, your environment, your energy levels. Your best when you've just recovered from the flu is very different from your best after a week of vacation.
So the commitment is just to give your full attention and effort in that specific moment.
Utilizing the resources available right now.
I see the strategic brilliance here. If the judge's sole job is to criticize us when we fall short of the book of law, the only way to silence it is to remove the basis for criticism.
That is the strategy for bypassing the judge and neutralizing guilt. If you genuinely, consistently do your best, no more, no less, the judge has no legitimate basis to criticize you, regardless of the outcome.
So if the result is poor,
you can honestly tell the judge, I did my best under those circumstances. This simple, undeniable truth breaks the spell of self-punishment and frees you entirely from guilt and blame.
Ruiz is adamant on this point, isn't he?
He is. If you always do your best, there are no regrets.
The moment we push ourselves beyond our true capacity, trying to achieve the best of a healthy, refreshed moment when we are, in fact, sick or tired, we are actually sabotaging ourselves.
And that creates the perfect opening for the judge to slip back in. Pushing beyond your current capacity leads to burnout, self-loathing, and exhaustion. This exhaustion feeds the parasite,
It undermines the entire purpose of the agreement.
which is long-term, sustainable happiness. This brings us to the deeper point about strategic sustainability. The purpose of doing your best is not the result. It is the joy you derive from the process.
That reminds me of the classic Toltec story about the student asking the master how long it would take to achieve enlightenment.
Yes, the student asks the master, if I meditate 4 hours a day, how long will it take to transcend? The master says 10 years.
And the student, eager, says,
What if I meditate 8 hours a day? The master replies, 20 years. The master's reply highlights the essence of this shift.
which is,
You are not here to sacrifice your joy or your life. You are here to live, to be happy, and to love.
so if that 8 hours means sacrificing sleep, health, and family connection, it results in misery and self-rejection.
Which means you are feeding the parasite even while attempting spiritual advancement. It's the ultimate self-defeating loop.
So true strategic sustainability requires enjoying the action itself, not just the payout.
Not just the distant result. Living your life doing your best is the highest form of honoring life. Every action, even scrubbing a floor, becomes a ritual of respect for life, transforming mundane tasks into expressions of love rather than just means to an end.
These 4 agreements constitute the new operating manual designed to reclaim personal power and energy. But moving from diagnosis to implementation, from acknowledging the parasite to fully installing the agreements, that's a massive undertaking.
It is.
Now we get into the final strategic segment, the execution, the Toltec Path to freedom.
Adopting the 4 agreements is not framed as a gentle self-improvement project. It is a formal, fierce declaration of war against the parasite to regain what Ruiz calls personal freedom.
And the Toltec Path mandates 3 fundamental masteries that have to be achieved for this transformation to stick.
They do.
Let's break down the 3 masteries required for this internal warfare.
The first is the mastery of awareness. This is recognizing the actual state of your mind. It means seeing the fog, the Mitote, for what it is.
It's the realization that your entire personal dream, your subjective reality, is based on unexamined, often fear-based lies.
And that you are under the control of the parasite, the judge and victim. This awareness, recognizing the truth that you are currently not free, is the essential first step toward freedom.
You can't fix corrupted code until you admit the code is corrupt.
Exactly.
And once we are fully aware of the extent of the damage, we move to the practical labor of fixing it.
That is the mastery of transformation. This is the work itself, changing the fear-based agreements that cause suffering and replacing them with the 4 agreements. This requires relentless, repetitive practice.
So it's about reprogramming your mind.
Gradually transforming the inherited dream of hell into a personal dream of heaven. The sheer amount of personal power that was used to create and maintain the old self-limiting beliefs returns to you as you break them.
And the third mastery, mastery of intent, is the state of being that secures the new system.
The mastery of intent is the mastery of love. It is the ultimate destination of the Toltec Path, a state of unconditional acceptance, joy, and peace.
So when you live in this state,
You perceive love and clarity radiating from everything, including yourself and others. This mastery stabilizes the system, ensuring the warrior is no longer fueled by fear, but by joy and intentional action.
the path to achieving these masteries and overthrowing the parasite is called the path of the warrior. What is the defining characteristic of this warrior?
A warrior is defined by their rebellion against the internal parasite and their total control over their personal energy budget. This path requires immense emotional and behavioral discipline,
Which involves practicing refraining, not repressing.
and that distinction is vital.
Can you elaborate on the difference between refraining and repressing? Because many people confuse self-control with emotional suppression.
Repression is the victim's strategy. When you repress an emotion, you bury it out of fear of punishment, rejection, or disapproval. The emotion remains a lie and festering beneath the surface, waiting to erupt later,
And repression feeds the parasite.
because it involves lying to yourself about what you truly feel. The warrior, however, practices refraining. They hold the emotion, recognizing its energy, but choosing not to act on it immediately or inappropriately,
So they express the emotion at the right moment.
in a controlled, deliberate, and impeccable way.
So the warrior is the one in control of their emotional output, not a helpless victim of their own emotional data stream.
Precisely. Warriors are impeccable because they have complete ownership over their emotions and behavior, ensuring they are not helpless victims of internal or external emotional poison. They are the masters of their own dream.
Not slaves to the chaos of the Mitote.
Exactly.
For those seeking the most radical, fastest path to permanent freedom, Ruiz offers the concept of a powerful symbolic technique, the initiation of the dead. This sounds intense.
It is the ultimate confrontation. The initiation of the dead is a profound symbolic death designed to kill the parasite, the judge, the victim, and the entire fear-based belief system without harming the physical body.
It must require extraordinary courage.
It does, because the parasite, recognizing its impending destruction, will fight back violently, making the warrior feel as though they're the one who is going to die. This is the moment of maximum risk, but maximum reward.
And who is the teacher during this initiation?
The teacher is the ultimate reality, the angel of death. The angel teaches the ultimate value of the present moment by demonstrating the impermanence of everything else.
What's the fundamental truth the angel delivers?
You see, everything that exists here is mine. It is not yours. Your house, your spouse, your children, your car, your career, your money, everything is mine. And I can take it away when I want to, but for now you can use it.
That forces absolute surrender and immediate presence. If every external agreement, status, possessions, relationships is temporary, why waste energy resisting life or clinging to the past?
The surrender removes the massive, heavy burden of carrying the past and worrying about the future. By accepting mortality, by internalizing that nothing is truly ours, we realize we must live fully and impeccably in the present moment today.
And stop resisting the flow of life.
Which leads directly to the mechanism for killing the parasite, the strategy of starvation.
How does one starve a mental parasite that has been fed on fear and guilt for decades?
You choose to starve it by refusing to feed it. You must systematically refrain from fueling the negative fear-based emotions, anger, hate, jealousy, sadness, envy, that sustain the judge and victim system.
If the parasite feeds on fear and drama, denying it drama is denying it food.
Yes. When the judge accuses, you reply, "I did my best." When the victim cries, you refuse to listen. The parasite, no longer sustained by your fear and self-judgment, begins to shrivel and die.
And the reward for the warrior who survives this initiation, who successfully starves the internal enemy.
It is the resurrection. This is the death of the parasite and a profound rebirth into a state of freedom and love. This freedom is fundamentally different from the innocence we had as children.
How so?
It is freedom with wisdom. The wisdom to keep the parasite dead, to maintain the new, impeccable agreements, and to recognize the difference between truth and lies.
This transformation allows the warrior to finally stop living in the dream of hell.
And arise into a personal dream of heaven, using their own mind for the first time to live their own life.
This has been a complete systematic overhaul of the human mental architecture. The strategic diagnosis is clear. We are running inefficient, fear-based software installed through domestication, maintained by the judge and the victim, leading to massive energy deficits and mental chaos.
And the solution is a strategic reprogramming, requiring a daily commitment to 4 tactical shifts. Use your word impeccably, the offensive weapon to stop self-sabotage.
Practice not taking anything personally, the defensive shield against all emotional poison.
Replace assumptions with questions, the intelligence protocol for absolute clarity.
And always do your best, the sustainability engine that bypasses the internal judge and eliminates guilt.
The Toltec Path is simply the conscious choice to be a warrior, to achieve awareness, starve the parasite of emotional energy, and live fully in the present moment, reclaiming the immense personal power that has been leaked away for years.
The power to create hell and the power to create heaven is entirely within your perception and your choice.
Happiness and suffering are agreements we make. You can choose to suffer your destiny, or you can choose to enjoy it. The repetition of these 4 simple agreements is the lever to break the old strong agreements and make you the true master of your own dream.
So what does this all mean for you? Consider which of your existing self-limiting agreements, the ones costing you the most emotional energy, you are ready to declare war on today to reclaim your lost personal power. Identify that point of leverage and begin your deep dive into freedom now. Risk defined, portfolio protected.